Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you listen to this episode of Tree Talk, episode 231. It was another eventful weekend in the Munster Hurling Championship, something that we're certainly not used to, Matt, and had a weird feeling with Limerick's, I suppose, long unbeaten run coming to an end. But we'll go through that and more throughout the podcast. We have two special guests with finals upcoming for our minor camogie and a football team. So stay tuned for all that and more over the course of the next hour or so.
The impression of the game you get out of it, what you put into it's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
But not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tomás O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the work out today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Curry. Curry leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it hard. He's put it hard.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
Obviously, I started there with the feet, and we're not used to talking about the feet, but we'll switch to camogie to start with, and we're joined by Limerick Minor Camogie joint manager Paul Neenan as they prepare for an All-Ireland final this Sunday. Paul, how are you feeling?
Hi lads, thanks for having us on this morning.
Morning, Paul. How are you?
Hi Matt, how are you? We're in good form, I suppose. Jack, really, and looking forward for the weekend.
Yeah, it's not too often that these All-Irelands come along. I suppose, what's it like dealing with the expectancy and the hype that comes in All-Ireland final as opposed to other games that maybe you could go under the radar and just focus on the game itself?
Yeah, so look, it brings its own challenges, I suppose. It's a good challenge, isn't it? There's certainly a bit more noise around the game for the girl. Get him trying to get the focus and coming out performance on Sunday really, and everything else looks after itself. But I say, it's a nice problem, Jack.
Yeah, I suppose this Sunday in Nolan Park at 2:30 against Antrim, a team you're familiar with, and we'll get to that game. But I suppose you started the campaign with a big win over Offaly. Did you know then and there that it was a special group?
Yeah, I suppose we knew. I'm involved in the group for a good few years, Jack. I suppose probably the older girls in the 18s, probably with him since they're under 13. So I know, and Brian Madden, one of our selectors, is with the kind of 17 group for the last few years. So we knew the bunch of girls we had, which are always kind of a bit anxious in that first game, and you get under your belt and get out and perform. And look, we really hit the ground running the first day against Offaly, and. Once you're there and once you have a game under your belt, it kind of I suppose the momentum comes from that,
Yeah, and following that up with a win against Meath, and then the game against Antrim, and I suppose 3 out of 10 points is a decent sized win, but 11 scores to 10, that you'll be confident that you'll be able to right the wrongs with conceding the 3 goals, please God, this Sunday.
Yeah, look. It's Antrim. We played them in a round robin. On the day they were deservedly winners. There was no two ways about that. It was a much closer game than the scoreline, and the overall scoreline suggests we did concede 3, definitely 2 soft goals, and the last goal came late in the game. But look, it was our 4th game. It was actually our 4th game on the trot, and our 3rd day travelling. We were probably a bit leggy on the day, and we even seen the Hurlers in their round robins the last couple of years. That 3rd or 4th game really does test your panel and your players because of just getting week on week, and especially when you're traveling. We were in Scotland the week before that. I say we'd been in Navan the week before that, and probably looking back on the round robin part of it, we probably had the rough end of the drawing that our home games were stopped in the finish. We were on the road for 3 or 4 games, so. Look, we'd be hopeful that we can try and turn that around. And obviously, if we were to get a result on Sunday, we do need to turn it around a bit from the last day.
Yeah, and obviously you had back-to-back games against Clare to finish the round robin, a draw, and then got one over on them. I suppose it's been a bad week for Limerick hurling against Clare, but she certainly got the upper hand in the semi-final and really dug it out, and I suppose shows the character in the side, a 1-8 to 1-6 win.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, look. Obviously, we played them within 7 or 8 days of each other. It was effectively a replay in the semi-final. Look, the first day was probably a bit of a dead rubber really, and the both teams were going through and going to meet each other in the semi-final either way. And it was kind of, look, we played that kind of a game. It was a very open game in Kilmallock. It was a good game of hurling. It was a game of two halves, a lot of scores on both sides. But look, knockout the following week, Clonmel was a different kettle of fish, and it was really a real tense match. Look, we probably had a 3 or 4 point cushion for most of the game. They got a goal late on to make it really nail biting for the last 3 or 4 minutes. But look, we were delighted to get over the line against them.
Yeah, and obviously Antrim had a nice win over Wexford, 4-12 to 1-8. Again, showing what kind of side you're going to be facing this Sunday.
Yeah, look, Antrim. In fairness, I think it was just looking at the report in that game. It was. I think there was only a point in it at half time. But Antrim had been getting goals the last few games, and it'll be something we'll have to deal with on Sunday. That if we can limit their goal scoring chances and scores, it'll give us a chance, you know.
Yeah, I think Matt was saying he was impressed with the defence in the semi-final. Matt, I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah, but Paul, I was just going to put it to you that those 2 back-to-back games with Clare, I saw both of them, and I saw 2 different. I saw 2 different strengths in the Limerick team, but first of all, I suppose what was common to both days was the resilience, because the first day you were 8 points down at halftime, and we saw a great performance by the forwards, and in clawing it back to force a draw. Now the second day in Clonmel, there was resilience there in spades, Paul, particularly, and it was the defence that stood out. Now Lucy O'Brien got player of the match, and any one of the 6 Limerick defenders could have got it. I believe you're in a good place going into the final against Antrim, Paul.
Actually, look, we are, Matt, as you say. Look, I think over the course of the round robin matches in the semi-final, maybe look, we probably conceded the least amount of any of the teams. I think we look back at the table. So our backs have been pretty solid. That comes from up the field as well. Look, and you have to defend, as most teams tell you have to defend high up the pitch, and your forwards have to do as much tackling as the backs do. In reality, but look with Lucy. Lucy's our captain, and all Ryan's side fullback is our vice captain. Look, they're 2 really strong defenders, and with good girls around them as well, and very mobile. And look, as I say, the second day, look, really the semi-final win has to be credited to our backs, as you say. Look, really kept pressure on shots and really forced Clare to shoot under pressure. And look, they'll need to perform again, Matt, the same on Sunday if we have to get over the line.
Yeah, the previous game with Antrim, I know you were saying Antrim deserved to win it, and I have no doubt that is the case. But 3-8 to 10 points, it was just again their Antrim's ability to get goals, which was played at Abbottstown, which you could say was a home venue for Antrim. We're on neutral ground.
Yeah, that's correct. Well, that's correct, Matty. Look, they actually played all their own robin games in Abbottstown. Bar maybe, I think they might have played their league game above in Antrim. So the deal kind of at Minor Camogie with Antrim is that everyone plays them in Abbottstown, because look, obviously traveling both ways, and it's a long trip down from Antrim to go to Wexford or Limerick or Cork or any of those kind of teams. So they have the advantage of playing there. But look, Abbottstown is a perfect surface, perfect pitch. You couldn't actually play in a nicer place. So you can't complain about the venue, Matt, really. And we've had look, to be fair, the parents and families of the group have been great to support our team, and I think we had as many supporters up there as Antrim had. So it was a neutral venue, really. But look, they had the advantage maybe of a shorter travel and maybe having a home game the week before as well.
Yeah, these are happy days especially for Camogie at underage level in Limerick, and in the recent success of the Munster in the Munster Championship of the under-16 team, winning the Munster under-16 A Championship with a good win over Cork in the final. Does that heighten the pressure a small bit on the team going to Kilkenny on Sunday?
I don't think so, Matt. Look, if anything is a boost that the Camogie in general is going well. Like there's been good underage structure the last few years, and look, a lot of girls coming through. Look, I'd like to see every Limerick Camogie team winning, and if they can, and look, I don't think it heightens the pressure any bit, really, you know.
Paul, yourself and Tony Dunn lead a very enthusiastic backroom team.
We have a great backroom team. In fairness, Matt. And look. In fairness, myself and Tony, I suppose I've been involved with this group since under 13 kind of development groups. Tony was involved a couple of years of 16s with me, and Brian Madden from One Lee and would have been involved with the 17s, this year 17s, say, for the last 3 years up along. And we've been very lucky to add this year Katrine DeVal from the 𝘠𝘰𝘷𝘦 and Sinead McNamara from the PhD to our group, and Danny O'Sullivan McKildime as well, who's our goalkeeping coach. But the two girls have been a great boosters, because look, I suppose we are dealing with female athletes here, and it's great to have two ladies involved in the team that the girls can look up to have played with Limerick, and they've gone through the system themselves, and they've given us a good perspective that maybe we wouldn't have had before, to be honest, right? And it's great. We've been working well together so far, so we'll hopefully keep it going for another week.
Paul, I suppose it's a bit cliched, but it will probably take the best performance of the season by a good bit to pull it off on Sunday. You're going in as underdogs.
Yeah, no, look, 100%. Look. Obviously, Antrim had that win under their belt against us. We'll have to perform at our best. And look, I believe it's in the girls to perform. I think if we can get an hour of our A game to our match, and it'll take a good team to beat us.
Yeah,
that's it from me, Jack.
Yeah, hopefully the performance will be there today, and the result will match that. As we said, at Limerick Minors versus Antrim this Sunday at 2:30 in UPMC Nolan Park in the Minor A All-Ireland Final. Paul, the very best look to you and Tony and the entire team. The entirety of Limerick is behind you, and please God, we'll have you on soon to talk about an All-Ireland Final win. So thanks very much, Paul.
That's great. Thanks, lads.
Thanks very much, Paul.
Oh, Matt, straight from the minor camogie into the minor footballers. We're joined by John Ryan, manager, as Limerick are preparing for that Phase One Final against Tipperary. John, how are you keeping?
Not too bad, Matt. Good morning, Jack. Good morning. I just like to send best wishes out to Paul. I know Paul well, and to the minor camogie on Sunday. I hope that it's great to say we need titles in Limerick in all grades and all sports. And Paul, the best look on Sunday, and to the team and the rest of the management as well.
Lovely thought, John. There, lovely thought.
Hopefully it can be the start of a minor double for Limerick. John, you have, I suppose, a bit more time than the camogie side. You're not out till the 11th, 8 days from today. It'll be, a solid 2 weeks from that win over Waterford. What's the mood been like since, I suppose, you confirmed that place in the final last Thursday?
Yeah, look, we got together on Saturday morning. We had a players management meeting, and we had a light session afterwards, because it's week on week, as you know, Jack, and it can take its toll with injuries and that. So last night was the first real blowout we had, and we had a good session last night. The mood in the camp is good. The thing was, we all must realise here that these are all 17-year-olds, and they have a lot going on. They're involved in school. They have they're at that age as well, where they're in sport. They have to make a decision which road they'll go down. And then we have players that play rugby, soccer, but the commitment level that we've got from the panel is absolutely fantastic. Just going back to it, I suppose we would have started back training in January, and we got an S&C coach in David Lernahan from Kilmehel and County Clare, would have played senior football, under 21 and minor football with Clare. He came in as our S&C. He's involved in UL, and the first thing we had to work on was our fitness levels. We just saw that and no disrespect, it was that time of year where the heavy slog, and we used to call it money in the bank, because we need that And I think it has come through that their fitness level has improved over the last, we'll say, number of weeks and matches. And as the matches has gone on, we played challenge games, we played Laois, we played Wexford, we played Offaly, we played Wexford, we beat Wexford. We probably could have beaten Laois, but on the day Offaly were the better team. So we came into the first game against Tipperary, and we were kind of scratching our heads, picking the side. And I think there was a bit of nervousness there the first day, and I think that our players didn't do themselves justice. I remember leaving Mick Neville Park that night and thinking, where are we going from here? We had to face down to Milltown, and I would have been involved in Clare. I'm living in Cratloe, so I would know the Clare football scene very well, because I would have trained for the last 3 years. I would have been involved against with 𝘕𝘰𝘦𝘁𝘃 against a lot of those teams. And when you go to Milltown to play a match, you're really going into the lion's den of Clare football. And when they get you down there, it's your next step is America. So weather-wise, atmosphere-wise, the whole lot down there was a tough one. But look, there was a great story told of 1979, the Milltown massacre, when a great Kerry side beat Clare. And Clare would have been bringing teams. When I was involved with the seniors, we went there with a good Limerick senior team to play Clare in the McGrath Cup, and we came out second best. So I was going down really on hope donating. But what a night and what a game, and what a night for Limerick football.
Yeah, it was a brilliant game, and watching it, it seems that the players, once maybe the second goal went in, that they got huge confidence. And you talk about that fitness and energy just to go through. They seem like a very determined group just to get to the goals. That they're happy enough to leave points behind, that they're going for goals, and it's a refreshing approach to football.
It is, but it doesn't always work. You need to keep the scoreboard ticking as well, Jack. It's not when we got him in at half time in that game, first thing was we said we targeted the straight down the centre, and 2 goals in the second half came off that area. Sometimes you plan that stuff and it doesn't come off, but on this occasion it did, and we were all delighted. But in saying that, I have to hand it to the players. We give them instructions in the dressing room, but they went out and they had to. When you're inside the white line, there was parts of that game when Clare were really on top, and it looked there was no way back for Limerick, and they fought and fought and fought. The next thing, look, they got the result. And of all my years involved in football, that was the sweetest.
Yeah, and you spoke about the age profile, and you'd have some 17-year-olds, but a lot of 16-year-olds in there, and they would have known themselves going down to Milltown, and then again in Rathkeale last Thursday, they had to win both games, and they got the job done. And you must be very proud of the team first and foremost to actually take that pressure and still perform.
Yeah, and at inter-county level, there is pressure. When you put on a Limerick jersey or any inter-county jersey, you're facing into the unknown for these players, and it was the parents as well. They drive them to training, they wait for them, bring them home. They're always at the end of the phone if there's a problem or anything, if there's a change of venue or whatever we're trying to do. So this is a whole team effort, both parents and the players. And I'm so proud of everybody that's involved, management, backroom team, everybody involved. And going into play Waterford last week in Mick Neville, a big, physical, strong Waterford team that had all to play for. They'd not to lose. They could drop the shackles. They wanted to get a win. I spoke to their manager when they arrived, and he said, that they were going for it, and they did. And it took us a long time to break them down, especially there. We couldn't get the ball into our inside forwards because they were playing 14 behind the ball, and that was very difficult. And their physical strength as well caused us major problems. They kind of put a wall across our half forward line and to break them down. So it was a long ball to try and get it in, and patience won the game for us. And I think a fantastic, I'd hate singling out players, but Evan Curry was very, very good. He got a fantastic goal. If it was in the Premiership, I'd say to be on Sky for a few weeks showing it. But he met it on the volley and went straight into the back of the net. But look, we are delighted. We've come through with it, and now you get another crack at Tip in Mallow. Yeah. I think next Thursday night. That's morning night week.
On Tipperary, I suppose you have improved with the games, and lads that age will improve. You must be really looking forward to getting another crack at Tip, because probably a bit under par, first game of the year, probably a bit of nerves and all that, and could have been some of the lads' first time represented Limerick, that you have improved in the meantime and you'd be mad to go for it again against Tip.
Yeah, look, but they have improved as well. And that we brought that up in training last night. They will have improved. They have the game against Clare. No, there was nothing between them and Clare. Clare. There was a point in it with a few minutes to go, and they kicked on, whereas Clare didn't. And Clare missed. I think it was a free or a ball under the post that they could have put over the bar to level it, and that could have changed the whole thing. But look, we are getting another crack at them. I think the pressure is on Tip a small bit rather than ourselves, because they have beaten us in our own backyard. Now it's a neutral venue. All bets are off here now. Let's have a go at this and have a crack at it. Yeah,
it's an exciting game to look forward to. Matt, I'll throw it over to you.
John, can you give us an update on your captain, Aidan O'Shea, who you have played the entire campaign so far without, and he's the only survivor from last year?
Yeah, well, Evan Curry was on the panel as well last year, as far as I know. Going back to Aidan picked up a knock, a very simple knock. He'd been down for a ball, and he was a collision with another player. So he had his neck got injured. He hasn't trained with us since. He was at training last night. He's still under with Dr. Lucy, and Dr. Lucy is basically going through stuff with him. We've days. This will go down to the 11th hour. We'll make a decision, but we have to be fair to Aidan as well. Now, he hasn't tugged out, but he has been in the dressing room with us. What a leader, and what a man that can talk. And he's an on-playing leader for us, and he's our captain. So the next few days and the next week will tell a lot.
John, that first performance in Rathkeale against Tipperary, there's no use in sugarcoating it. It was a very, very, very poor performance, and I suppose you'd be entitled to think and scratch your head after it and say, what the hell have I got into here, But what actually happened between it and the Clare match? Because this is a carbon copy of what happened last year. We went down very poorly to Tipperary in the first round, and then lo and behold, we dug out a big result against Clare and against Waterford. But it wasn't a change in the Limerick team between Tipperary and Clare. It was a transformation.
Yeah, look, I keep going back to it, Matt. These are young fellas. We went into that game, thinking that we were going to perform, and there was 10 minutes or 15 minutes gone in the Tipperary game, and we were, as you said, we were scratching our heads in the sideline. We tried to make changes, and actually, the more changes we made, the worse it got at times. And look, we regrouped after that. We met in UL and we had a chat. We went through a small bit of stuff. We looked at the video, and I think the players said to themselves, "We've nothing to lose going in against Clare. Let's have a go." And I was saying it a few times that this is not a bad Limerick minor team. It's just it's like having all the ingredients to bake the cake. And how do we do it? And on a given night, it's an hour's football. You can train, you can plan, you can give all the game plans you want, but it's down to that hour. And I agree with you, Matt. We were very, very poor against Tipperary in the first round. They took the game to us, and there was, no matter what we tried to do, we missed scores, we turned over a lot of ball. We looked at the stats at half time, and we'd given away, I think it was around 11 or 12 or 14 unforced errors. Panicking the ball, we were panicking coming out of the defence with it, and we were punished for that. And in the second half, Tipperary just seemed to up the ante and just moved on.
Yeah, John, just referring to the Waterford game again there, and you spoke about the defensive strategy of Waterford, but the previous week Waterford got a right trouncing from Tipperary. Did that feed in any way into the lads' approach to the game?
No, what happened with Waterford was Waterford were having gone to a go at they were they said we need to get scores on the board, and I think when they win for the game, they opened up at the back. So when they came to McNeville last Thursday night, they said, okay, let's go defensive here and break on the attack and the counter attack and see what we can get out of it. And we found it very, very hard to break them down. But as the game wore on, we got in top, and we got in top then. Like, we missed a lot of scores as well, Matt. I would think, the scoreline didn't do our possession, the amount of possession we had justice, because we had the ball, we were on the ball an awful lot, but we didn't turn it into scores. And that's a worrying factor for us as a management team. That you have so much possession, but you can't turn it into scores. And we didn't seem to do that against Waterford.
John, chatting with you after the Tipperary game in McNeville Park, you were lauding the structure of the competition. How important is the tweak that has been made to it this year, that irrespective of what happens in the Phase One final, you have a semi-final to look forward to against one of the big two?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. When you look at it, we've won 5 matches. It's a long time since the Limerick minor football team had 5 matches in championship. Irrespective of whatever happens next week, you're going to play one of the big guns, Cork or Kerry. Now, everybody wants to crack at one of these because then that shows you where you are at. There's fantastic work being done under Stephen Levin at the academy level. That's bringing them through. Paul Kinnerk was there before that. The academy is going very, very well. I know they had a big win against Rathcommon at under 16 level last week. So it's all that is good, but what we need to do is we need to progress with it. So if you go into a championship and you're knocked out in the first round, all the good work is gone. We'd have been gone if it was knockout against Tipperary. But yet we had the next game against Clare, back into it again, next game against Waterford. Now you're in a Phase One final. Now everything, all bets are off again, and you could there's silverware on the offering, and now you're back into, after that you've 2 teams going forward as well. So everything, this is a very, very good structure, and we all give out about fixtures and about structures within our association, but I think this one definitely is definitely very, very good.
That's it from me, Jack. The very best of luck on Thursday week, John.
Matt, thank you very much. You've been always very good to us. Thank you very much, Matt.
Yeah, that fixture is next Thursday night at 7 o'clock in Mallow, Limerick versus Tipperary. As Matt said, the best of luck to you, John. But while we have you briefly, obviously a big football man, John, you would have seen the Tailteann Cup draw yesterday. From a Limerick point of view, they should have been confident before the draw was ever made. As a Division 2 team and reached the Munster Final last year, but Longford, Carlow and Wicklow is difficult, but definitely doable.
Oh, it's doable, 100%. I think it's great. I think when the management and players will sit down and look at this draw, everyone sits down when the National League fixtures come out and you target games and you target what's part of it. I think this is very good for Limerick. I think this competition, I think they'll get the most out of it. I think they're very, very unlucky against a very good Clare side in the Gaelic grounds, and only for the Clare goalkeeper getting his fingertips to a ball, the result could have been different, and they could have been in the Munster final. So look, everything is positive here. I think it's this competition. The difference between playing Sam Maguire and playing Tailteann Cup, they're poles apart. And I think every county that's out there that needs to progress and get games, this is what it's about. And I think Limerick will be delighted that they're going into this. In this, I look, when very much I saw the draw yesterday, I said, look, this is good for Limerick. But then still they have to go out and win games, and every game will be a cup final, and every other county will be looking at Limerick and saying, can we win this one as well? So when you think of it like that, that's going to be the big thing for Limerick. But I think this will improve Limerick football. I think it'll give the boys, after coming off at the back of a poor enough league campaign, that this, and the game against Clare really brought them back into it. And now they have this to look forward to, and I wish them the very best of luck, and I hope they can drive on.
Yeah, we'll touch on the Tailteann in a few minutes, Matt. But John, you've been very good with your time. As we said, next Thursday night you'll be back out in action against Tipperary, and then you'll have one of Cork or Kerry to come as well. So 2 more games guaranteed. You've improved so far, so please God that improvement can continue on, and we'll be seeing these players represent Limerick at 20s and senior. But for now, it's all focused on the minors. So John, thanks a million for your time, and we'll talk again soon.
Jack and Matt, thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, John.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Matt, we'll be touching on that minor game next week closer to time.
Jack, we must just acknowledge there that the two lads that we had on the wonderful work that they're doing in their respective codes. Absolutely fantastic. Like it's been a labour of love for years with John Ryan with Limerick football at different levels. And Paul Neenan, as he said there, he has a team in an All-Ireland final that he has been with since they were under 13s. And you must remember that Paul's own playing career only ended 2 years ago. So, you know, it's fantastic to see a guy like that, you know, making the transition from playing, albeit he's crossing codes, you know, from playing to management and coaching. It augurs very well for the county. So, you know, congratulations to the two lads for what they have done. They've done great jobs. They've been great ambassadors for our county in their respective sports.
Yeah, no, and very good with their time as well, Matt. Come and talk to us, and we're trying to promote these sides because they're the players of the future. They're the players of now, I suppose, and you know, you can never have too many finals to look forward to, and thank God we have two already. The minor A Camogie final this Sunday in Nolan Park, and the Munster Minor Football Phase One final next Thursday night in Mallow. So we're keeping a close eye on both those games, Matt. Just going into the Tailteann Cup draw that was on yesterday, as we said to John, you know, Limerick are one of the top seeds. That meant avoiding Cavan, Meath, and Fermanagh. So you're obviously avoiding three of the big guns already. You did have the likes of Down and Wicklow with Limerick through, but Wicklow, Longford, Carlow, you know, we've played all those sides in recent years in the leagues. Obviously, a few memorable victories over Wicklow in Aughrim, beat Longford last year as well in the Gaelic Crowns, and Carlow beat them en route to getting promotion in 2020. So should be no fear for Mark Fitz on the side.
No, Jack. Look, in many ways, and you know, I don't want to breed complacency, but in many ways, it's a dream draw, Jack, and you know, it's compounded also by the fixture scheduling, because you know, if there were two places of the three that you didn't want to go for your away game, they would be Longford and Wicklow. And we've Longford at home in the first round, and then we travel to Carlow, and then we have Wicklow at a neutral venue. So, like, it's in terms of in those terms, it's all set up very nicely, and it's an immediate opportunity for Limerick, you know, to finally exorcise the you know, the ghosts of Division 2, and build on what was a hugely promising performance against Clare, as John Ryan touched on it there, you know, but it could so easily have gone the other way. Now, I know the sight of a Clare jersey probably lifts Limerick to new heights, you know, and after the last 2 weeks, God knows we owe them a couple of beatings, but I have no doubt that they'll come too. But yeah, look, I think Mark Fitzgerald and his management team cannot be but happy with what the draw is. But, you know, you must guard against complacency. Like, when I saw the teams, I was following it live. When I saw the teams coming out, when they were falling out and falling into Limerick's group, I said to myself, my God, our luck is in that regard. It has changed. And then when I immediately afterwards got the schedule of the games and how it was fixed, I said, you know, that's another boost. So it's all in their own hands now. It's a very favourable draw. It's a very favourable fixture scheduling, but they still, Jack, have to go out and get the job done. Now, 3 out of 4 are going to come out of that group, and the situation is that the top team in each group will go through to this quarterfinals. The second team will go through to the preliminary quarterfinals, and the 3 best third teams and New York will make up the preliminary quarterfinals. when you say it fast, maybe a bit complicated, and needs a bit of digging into. But it'll all pan out now, and it's going to be a very, very busy May, because it's going to start on the weekend after next, and it's going to run until the first weekend in June. So Limerick will know their fate by the first weekend in June, and let's hope that it's hopefully it's a direct route to the quarterfinal, but at least a preliminary quarterfinal place.
Yeah, you kind of touched on it there, but as a team that was operating in Division 2 and reached the Munster final, do Limerick need to be getting to the final of this competition? Do they need to be winning it, or what do you think represents a good season for Limerick as it stands now?
There are good teams out there, and you named them, the likes of Fermanagh and Cavan and even Meath, but we know we can match Meath, but I wouldn't read too much into it, were we to meet them down the road. But Jack, we need to be in the mix. I would see if we're to build on the Clare result, and gear up for our return to Division 3 next year, and settling down in our new environments, I think we need a minimum of a semi-final.
Yeah, I do. I don't think it'll be anyway easy, but for me personally, I think Cavan are a very good team, probably more of an All-Ireland team than a Tailteann Cup team. But I think outside of that, Limerick should have no fear against anyone. I don't think they'd fear Cavan either, but Cavan probably should have won it last year and probably shouldn't be in it this year, but that's the way it draws. But yeah, look, you'll be looking at a semi-final the way it's laid out for them. Do
you believe in omens, Jack?
It depends what it is.
We have good record against Cavan.
Okay. Are we calling it now a Limerick Cavan final this early on the 3rd of May?
Oh, no, Jack, you stop that now. Go away.
No, look, we'll keep.
I'm calling Limerick to get to a semi-final.
Yeah, and I don't when was the last time Limerick were in a semi-final of an All-Ireland football competition?
It's not too far ago. It's not too long ago since we were in the quarter-final of the Sam Maguire.
I know, but into the semi-final, it would be great to see. But look, we'll keep a close eye on it and see how that works out for Limerick. But you'd be confident. You'd be confident that the draw has been decent to Limerick. We'll say, but as we said, it's not this weekend. It'll be next weekend that we kick off our campaign at home to Longford, and that's how we started our Division 3 campaign at home to Longford. So there's another omen for you.
Yeah, good man, Jack. You're digging them out now.
Yeah,
but I don't for 1 minute want to rehash the league, Jack. But and you've had me saying this in a number of times, that the scheduling of the league was very, very unkind to Limerick. Starting off with a trip to Derry, then Dublin at home, and then doing everything but beating Louth in RD. We could be talking about a different narrative now. I totally discount the final game of the league against Clare. It was a dead rubber, in that both sides were already relegated. Slightly worried about the performance against Cork. Got a good result against Meath. And when you delve into Division 2 and Limerick in Division 2, the narrative isn't as poor as it looks at face value. At first value.
Yeah. Well, you had 3 provincial finalists to start with. It looks for all the world that Derry and Dublin will win their provinces as well. So you're looking at playing 2 provincial champions first off, as you mentioned there. So yeah, it definitely wasn't kind to them this time around. You have a home game, you'll be favourites, and they did well with the favourite side for a lot of last year. So it's looking bright for Limerick football, to say the least. But again, that game won't be on till next weekend. It won't be confirmed till Friday, but it looks like it's going to be Saturday, May the 13th in the Gaelic grounds, but that'll be confirmed this Friday. We'll definitely keep a close eye on it. Moving on to the hurling then, Matt, and I suppose for the first time since I joined the podcast in mid-2020, there is a championship defeat for Limerick to look back on, to discuss. Clare 124, Limerick 220 in the two Gaelic grounds. I don't really know where to start, Matt. Limerick didn't perform to their best. That's fair to say. Clare performed very near, if at their best. There's been a lot of talk about Limerick in the meantime, half writing them off. But when you really take a closer look at the game, you know, Limerick were within a point of getting a draw, 2 points from a win. They lost their best defender. They lost arguably their best player. Didn't perform anywhere near their levels and were still within a point of Clare. So I don't think the doom and gloom that has surrounded the result or the aura is gone, but it's not very rosy at the moment. There are definitely some issues. I suppose, what was your initial take from the game?
Well, seeing that was the first defeat we have since you joined the podcast, I wonder, should we not talk about hurling at all this week?
No. We'll go through.
Yeah, look, we've got to face facts, Jack. You're right there in your summary. Like it was, you had Clare at their optimum, and you had Limerick at Limerick certainly below par, Jack. And you had the other factors that played into it: the loss of Sean Finn and the loss of Cian Lynch. But you must remember that over the last 2 years, and particularly last year, the county that came nearest to inflicting a defeat on Limerick were Clare. They drew with them in the final round of the round robins in round robin in Innis last year, and then drew with them in the Munster final, and Limerick needed extra time. So I suppose you could say it was their turn. And, we lost by a point, and I think that's maybe too simplistic of an analysis of it, because you cannot fully parse or analyse the game without factoring in 3 absolutely incredible saves by Nicky Quaid. The one from Tony Kelly, after about 20 minutes. The one from Peter Duggan, which he deflected over the bar on the stroke of half time, and the one towards the end there when the shot from Shanagar. But you know, you can counteract that with the argument, Jack, the fantastic save that Quilligan made from Seamus Flanagan after 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And, you know, in those early exchanges, Clare hit the first 3 points. During that same spell, Jack, Limerick had that save from Seamus Flanagan, and twice, Jack, hit the ball into the goalkeeper's hand. So instead of being 3 points down, we could easily have been 1-2 up. So, you know, a classical example of the small margins. But looking at it overall, Jack, and looking at Limerick's 2 performances to date, this is not the Limerick we are accustomed to. They certainly haven't found the rhythm. They haven't even found the level of rhythm that they showed in the league semi-final and final. It has been a below par performance on both days by Limerick. But if there's one good thing out of it, Jack, there's maybe 2 good things out of it. First of all, we're not out of the championship by any manner or means. And secondly, Limerick have 3 weeks to get it right. And that's a dangerous amount of time to be given to John Kiley and Paul Kinnerk.
Oh, definitely.
They certainly will, you know, if there are answers to be found, they will come up with them.
Yeah, and they've done it. They've done it in the past. You know, you had that loss against Clare in 18, and you responded by winning the All-Ireland. You know, and then the loss in 19 to Tipperary. You were 2 weeks later, they hammered Tipperary in the Munster final, and then obviously losing to Kilkenny. The response didn't come till the following year, but they won 13 competitive games. So they have bounced back. There's few I trust more than John and Paul and Alan and Donald, all those, to get the job done. And look, might have been a bit of complacency. A lot of these boys will have forgotten what losing was, what it felt to lose. Might just needed that, reminding of how enjoyable it is to win, I suppose, and how difficult it is to take a loss.
Yeah, but on the other side of the coin, Jack, you have to look. They're not robots. They have been on the road at the very top level for definitely 5. You could even stretch it into 2017, 6 years, which, by any stretch of the imagination is absolutely simply phenomenal.
Yeah.
And like you were defending a record going back 4 years. You hadn't lost in the Munster Championship, Jack. How many times has that happened before? Not very often. It happened, like Cork have done 5 in a row on 3 occasions, and they were in the days of the knockouts.
Yeah, there's a long time ago.
It's a long, and it's not a valid comparison. But like in the cut and thrust of Munster hurling now, and in the cut and thrust of the round robin series, which is dog eat dog, to go 4 years unbeaten, Jack, is simply phenomenal. And to a certain degree, there may be a sense of relief within the camp now, and that there will be a new focus. And as I said, I have the utmost faith on John Kiely, Paul Kinnerk, and that management team. That they will bang heads together and come up with a response.
Yeah, even talking to John afterwards, and you were there, obviously there was no hiding the disappointment and the hurt from John, but there was some sort of sense of, not relief, but a small pressure had been lifted, and that the team was being doubted. And I think they, as much as they enjoy being favourites and they live up to it, I think sometimes it's nice to prove people wrong instead of proving them right all the time, if you follow me. And now they've a huge opportunity to do just that against Tipperary team that, obviously played extremely well in the first round against Clare. And we'll know more when we talk next week about Tipperary, and they'll obviously have played Cork and things. But did you get that sense from John that, their backs are going to be to the wall for the next 3 weeks, and that they'll enjoy this break and coming out then with renewed energy and vigor, I suppose?
Yeah, because, it's been a very, very long campaign for Limerick so far. You must remember that they had 2 more games than Clare played in the league.
Yeah.
And the league morphed straight into the championship. I think he'll be absolutely delighted with the 3-week break.
Yeah,
and I think it'll be a glorious chance to recalibrate. If you were to say we were getting a defeat, we were going to be suffer a defeat, it was probably the right time to do it when you had plenty of time to recover after it.
Yeah, because if it had happened against Waterford, Clare would have smelled blood, and I suppose they smelled blood from the performance in Thurles that first day. And to be fair, you have to give credit to Clare, Matt, because as much and all as Limerick lost, Clare won the game.
Absolutely, and I in the context of doing the preview for our newspaper for the Cork Tipperary game at the weekend, I was just thinking Liam Cahill can be very, very pleased with what with his team registering 522, but he has grounds to be worried, and serious grounds to be worried, with the concession to Clare of 323 in the same game. That 323 would win most games, Jack. So
Yeah.
It was one of those games that was hard to make a judgment on. But the only thing about it, it fired up Clare for the simple reason that, like, Clare came into the Gaelic grounds last Saturday evening, Jack, with that championship on the line.
Yeah, and
and
they brought. I suppose they're now probably favourites in a lot of people's eyes, and I suppose that's the beauty of the round robin, that one good performance can completely change the narrative, as can one bad performance. But you do get the impression.
But before we play, Claire, there are a few things going to happen, which may have an impact on it, Jack. First of all, you're going to have Cork and Tip this weekend, and you're going to have Clare and Waterford next weekend.
Yeah,
it's not as if the championship has gone into a hiatus like for 3 weeks. It's not. We have a game this week and we have a game next week.
You'll know the landscape a lot more, and obviously,
absolutely,
Clare will be finished by the time Limerick play Cork, and if Waterford don't beat Clare, they'll be gone as well. So Limerick will know more, but looking at Tipperary,
if Waterford don't beat Clare, they're gone anyway.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So even though they'll be playing Tip in the final round, it won't make any bearing on Limerick. But there is definitely a sense of when teams play Limerick, it's their All-Ireland final. The Waterford team in Thurles wasn't there last Sunday in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. They weren't related to each other. The 5-22 that Tip got, I'm sure if Clare defended like they did on Saturday against Tip, they wouldn't have got near that mark, So there is a sense of that when you're facing Tipperary, that will be looking for an improved performance from the one that was so comfortable against Clare for large parts of it. So it will be very, very difficult for Limerick, regardless of if they beat Clare or not, or the loss, that everyone brings their A game for Limerick.
Oh yeah, look, there doesn't a doubt at all about that, Jack. But that comes with the territory of being champions.
Yeah,
and it's something you have got to expect. But it's something that Limerick have managed very well heretofore.
Yeah,
they have the last 2 Sundays of the last 2 weekends, possibly not as good as they had done it in the past. And there's an awful lot to work on, and as I said again, I'd be quite confident that the shortcomings, some of the shortcomings that we saw in both games, to call a spade, like there was passes not being completed and all that sort of thing, which is totally on Limerick-like. And, ball not going to hand when it should go to hand and all that sort of thing. Limerick normally don't do that. I think that will all be rectified. And, I'm still angry, Jack. I was very angry last week over some of the absolute tripe that was written and spoken about elements of Limerick's discipline. And it has continued to accept, not to the same level, but to a certain degree this year. And it's coming from people that should know better. And I'd say to them, go away and shut up once and for all.
Yeah.
There is no basis at all whatsoever to some of the stuff that has been written and spoken about. And in many cases, the opposition hasn't been even mentioned, as if they had just descended from heaven, angels just descended from heaven.
Yeah, there is definitely narrative around Limerick, and
Jack, it's gone too far, and the pre-championship narrative which John Kiely had to nail, that had gone too far as well. But now there's a different route to follow.
Yeah, there's definitely a narrative around Limerick, and it's not very fair a lot of the time. It's a physical game, and both teams brought a huge physicality. I will say that to the game, and maybe Clare's physicality contributed to Limerick's loss, because the players did seem a bit tired, and obviously we don't know what it's like to play an inter-county game for 70 minutes. Obviously, it's huge levels, but maybe the 3-week break, as you said, is coming at the perfect time for Limerick, because some of the bigger players just haven't performed like we know they can, and maybe they haven't been afforded, and Clare had their matchups right, and they kept certain players very quiet, but look, we've 3 weeks now anyway, Matt, to get things right. But what I will say on the game. You mentioned Nicky Quaid, and those 3 saves were incredible. And then I think William O'Donoghue and Tom Morrissey were 2 more that really stood out for me, that just
Absolutely.
gave everything from the first whistle to the very last, and almost single-handedly brought Limerick to the finish line.
They did, and William O'Donoghue was absolutely immense. And like, there's a question mark surrounding the Clare goal. I had a call from a very irate Limerick fan yesterday, pointing out that you know, that Peter Duggan, before he got possession, had committed a foul, a clear foul. Now, I wasn't in a position to argue it, but I just saw a fleeting, just a fleeting shot at it on Sunday night, and I didn't make a judgment, but as I said, it you know, there's a question mark, definitely, I suppose. And but getting back to William O'Donoghue was absolutely, and Tom Morrissey, they you know, they were similar. I would argue it was William O'Donoghue's best game ever for Limerick, nearly. He's had many good games, but I thought he was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, I remember against Tipperary in the rain in Park Equive in 2020, he was phenomenally good against Noel McGrath. But I just thought he led from the front, and Tom Morrissey then tipped in with a couple of scores. It was a willing outlet and worked so hard, which, you know, is standard for Tom. But goes under the radar so much.
Tom is such an incredible. He has such, you know, he's such incredible stamina, and you know what he's prepared to do for the team. Like Tom Morrissey is prepared to, you know, walk blades, do anything for the team. You know, go through iron walls, even. You know, it's just simply incredible. But yeah, look, getting back to where we started, Jack. I think you know, over the next 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks now, there'll be a lot of soul searching done, a lot of analysis done, a lot of honest talk, which is a characteristic of this team, and we'll see a different performance against Tipperary. And I just heard before I came on there now that John Kiley, speaking at the Dylan Quirk launch yesterday, indicated that the signs are that Cian Lynch will be fit to face Tipperary. There is no news on Sean Finn yet. It may emerge later today, but we wish the 2 lads the very, very best of luck in their recovery.
Oh yeah, 100%. It definitely seems more positive for Cian than Sean. There's obviously brilliant replacements there with Mike Casey and Rich English, but Sean Finn is the best defender in the game. So hopefully he'll be right for Tipperary, or just maybe a bit further, maybe Cork, or hopefully there's a Munster final for Limerick for the 5th year in a row. We're still a bit greedy, even after the loss to Clare. But again, you wouldn't want anyone else in this situation, only the Limerick Hurlers trying to regroup, because, you know, they've shown so many times in recent years that they're more than capable of doing just that. I suppose the torture against Clare didn't finish on Saturday night, Matt. It ran into Tuesday evening with the Miners 221-215 defeat to Clare. I suppose Limerick got the upper hand in the first game in the round robin a few weeks ago. It was 220 points, or 220 to 22 points. But last night, Clare got the upper hand, won by 6 points, probably a spelling around either side of the half, turned the game. It is a good Clare team. We know a good few of those lads from Arts, 𝘠𝘱, Mark O'Brien, I think, got the crucial second goal. Michael Collins
he got the 2 goals, actually.
Got 2, yeah.
Like himself, they got 2-9 between them, himself and Collins.
You know, he got 6 points from play. I saw him against someone in UL for Arts 𝘠𝘱. He was brilliant that they got 5 points in the second half alone. But, you know, for us, more disappointment for Limerick, unfortunately, against the banner.
Yeah, look, I saw the game. It It was very, very disappointing. Very disappointing insofar as that we had a very, very good start, and we're 3 or 4 points up, and then seemed to completely lost our way then, and Clare started knocking over points almost for fun, and we're 112 to 8 points up at half time. The goal coming literally with the last action of the first half, and they got a goal again with the first action of the second half. So it all turned, and both goals, Jack, you'd have to say, were of a fortuitous nature. Joseph Fitzgerald saved the first one. I think it was from Michael Collins. He saved it, actually. And somehow, before it was cleared, O'Brien was in and he scrambled it into the net. And it was sort of a scrambled goal again, the second goal. No culpability whatsoever attached to Joseph Fitzgerald in the goal. But we seem to lose our way now. Patrick Carney came on at half time, Jack. And he added spark and he added energy and he added a new approach up front. He ended up with a goal and a point, got a very, very good goal, I thought. And Limerick seemed to be clawing their way back to it. At one stage they fell 11 points behind and they worked really, really, really hard. And suddenly coming down the home straight, the margin was back to 3, Jack. We can't overlook that level of performance, but then Clare found the spot again and got 3 late points, which probably it probably distorts the margin of victory. I don't think it was a 6-point game. Now I know that Limerick had their troughs in the game. Spells in which they were quite poor, and one of those was basically in the second quarter, because in the first quarter they did quite well and were ahead after it, but in the second quarter they were quite poor. But for 20-25 minutes of the second half, after conceding that early goal, they really, really put it up to Clare. It's always disappointing to lose the minor championship. It's disappointing to lose any championship, but the minor championship is one that's cherished, and Clare have an opportunity now to go forward. They're playing Cork next Tuesday night. I don't know what the venue is, and they've already beaten Cork in the round robin series, so they have an opportunity now to go on and win the Munster Championship. But it comes with a small bit of a health warning, Jack. Both their victories were on Clare soil, which is an advantage. So, when they'll face Cork probably in the open spaces of Simple Stadium, it will be a different type of test. So, well, Simple Stadium or whatever it's going to be played, it may be played in the Gaelic grounds. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's just a pity Limerick aren't in it to look forward to. And the season started so well with wins over Waterford and Clare, and that dramatic win over Tipperary, but just has fallen off since then. But there's a lot of players that we will see, make the step up next year into the 20 ranks, and some lads obviously will be still around for the minor. But I suppose that brought to end a pretty poor week end for Limerick hurling after Friday night when the 20s season came to an end, and I suppose the defence of their Munster Championship concluded, and we saw the end of some illustrious underage careers for Limerick. But that 1 point defeat to Cork in the Gaelic, it was a defeat, or was it a draw? It was a defeat. Yeah,
one point defeat, but it wasn't a defeat to put Limerick out. A draw would have put them out anyway.
Yeah, that's why I got confused. I just knew when they got that late score, and it was a game that Limerick probably should have been clear in the first half. They probably shouldn't have made any difference what happened in the second half, because they dominated proceedings, and at a goal against run of play from 𝘠𝘰𝘦 brought Cork within 3, and then they just kind of overran them in the second half. But it was hugely disappointing for a Limerick team brimming with quality, and it just didn't happen in the second half. Like it just didn't happen in the first half against Tipperary, and just gave themselves too much to do.
It's the type of week that you would have nightmares about, and the type of week that you would be inclined, when discussing, you'd be inclined to say Nick's business, please.
Yeah, just the three defeats from three. As I said, we've got very greedy. We haven't been used to Limerick losing at any grade, not to mind minor, senior, and 20s. But that's just the way it panned out. Overall, the 20s campaign was a disappointment. You know, it's a good squad, but in flashes, you could see the potential of a lot of players. I thought Patrick Donovan was quiet the first day, but he was really excellent from there on in. You know, obviously played with the seniors last year and got injured. You'd imagine he'll be back in there. Now, if not next year, you know, there's a few more. Ethan Hurley back at 6, I thought was very good. Adam English showed in spurts, as did Shane O'Brien. You know, there's talent there. Evan O'Leary was brilliant again at cornerback. You know, there was more like that.
Ronan Lyons.
Excellent. Very, very good at fullback. Joe Fitz then in midfield. Look, you could go through the whole team, but it's just a shame they couldn't, you know, do it at this grade. I'm sure they'll do it for the seniors down the line, but it is a missed opportunity.
Dermot Mullins made a point, you know, after I think, you know, about winning close games last year on the way to reaching the All-Ireland final, and the point is valid, and that we were losing close games this year. And I think it went slightly off the rails, Jack, when in the second round against Clare, when we were 3 points up, 2 minutes into injury time, and looked home and hosed. And lo and behold, Clare come back and not get a goal to level, but get 3 points to level. You know, that to me sent out alarm bells. You know that why couldn't we close it out? All right, if they got a goal, you'd say one score and that's it. But to concede 3 scores so late in time added on, then we go to Thurles and we trail 1-9 to 2 points at half time, and we make a dramatic recovery in the second half and we close it to a point. And then you had the situation with Cork. It's a hard look story, Jack. It's a hard look story, and it shows that it was a squad that just didn't have the same level of ability as the team last year to get over the line in tight situations.
Yeah, they definitely had the talent. I suppose it was
definitely the talent. No question. No, I'm not questioning that talent whatsoever. But what I'm saying is, as a group, they just didn't seem to have the same level of resilience that can see out tight games.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it there. I think that Clare game maybe was the turning point, and probably lost the confidence there. If they'd held on, you know, it could have been so different. But that's just the way it is. The minor season is over. The 20 season is over. Obviously, the seniors have 2 more games guaranteed, and you'll be hopeful and still expectant that there'll be a lot more games for John Kiley's men. But it was a disappointing weekend, and if you want to further compound that, also on Saturday in the Gaelic rounds, the senior camogie side were defeated by Clare again, 115-11, and you know, it was a good first half from John Lillis' side, but it only added 2 points in the second half as Clare kicked on home in the Munster semi-final. And, you know, after the positivity of holding off relegation and, you know, a favourable draw in the championship, you know, it would have been further confidence boost for Limerick, but Clare fully deserving of their victory.
Yeah, they were deserving of that victory. Like, you know, when you only score 2 points in the second half, and you actually only scored 2 points in 29 minutes. But the simple reason that immediately after halftime, Claire Keating, just as she did before halftime, immediately before halftime, she got 2 excellent points from play, one before and one after. And when she hit the point immediately after halftime, it brought the margin down to a single point, and you're saying to Crikey is here. We're in this now. But it's sort of, Jack, it was a very poor game now from both sides. You know, after that, you know, whatever bit was in it in the first half, it sort of degenerated as a contest. And But the remainder of the game, we had to rely just on a single point in the 50th minute from Sarah O'Brien. After that, it was mainly Lorna McNamara from place balls for Clare. But Clare were worthy of their win, Jack. But, they're into the Munster final now. There was a very interesting development in the quarter-final when Waterford had a first ever championship win over Cork. They defeated them in the curtain raiser in Páirc Uí Chaoimh on Sunday. So it's a three-way battle now for Munster championship honours, I suppose you could say. Cork, who won the Munster championship, I think, to 70-something times,
Yeah.
The 2023 Munster Senior Camogie Championship is a bit of Hamlet without the Prince, as it's down to Clare, Waterford and Tipperary. Waterford and Tipperary play in the semi-final at 4:30 in Páirc Uí Chaoimh on Saturday. It's the curtain raiser to the big Tip Cork game.
Yeah, I suppose I'm not too surprised by Waterford winning. They're definitely on the crest of a wave, and the wave seems to be getting higher every month, every week. Obviously won the league, got to an All-Ireland semi-final last year. They're flying, but from a Limerick point of view, it was just disappointing that we couldn't get the job done against Clare. But look, there'll be championship for John Lillis and the All-Ireland championship for John Lillis, and he decided to bounce back with later on this year. I suppose it's been fairly grim the last half hour on the podcast. We're not used to talking about losses, but before we finish up, the Masters are out this weekend, Matt. They're away to Waterford on Saturday at 2:00. We had management and players on recently enough, so hopefully that can kickstart the return to winning ways for Limerick.
Yeah, Jack, there's a level of enthusiasm around the Masters that's absolutely infectious, and the amount of organisation and the amount of preparation that they have done for the opening game of the campaign has been simply phenomenal. Now, they've played a couple of challenge games. They went to Clare. I think it was in Shannon was played. I'm not sure now. I'd be maybe open to correction on that. They had a good win. And then they played Cork in John O'Mahony Park in Kilbehenny, and again had a good win. So, like the omens are very good. Like, but in terms, Jack, of organisation and preparation and what have you, it has been simply phenomenal. And we wish the lads the very, very best of luck. And it's in the St. Mary's GA ground now. There's an Irish version to it, and my Irish is bog Irish, Jack, but it's St. Mary's GA Club. It's located between Dungarvan and Clonmel.
Yeah, I think it's Turanina is the name of the area. We'll say I don't know my geography in Limerick, not to mind in Waterford, but look, I'm sure there'll be a lot of fanfare down there. It's very good. It's the first iteration of a Limerick Masters team. So the best of luck to the team, to the players. It'll be about winning on the day, but for most players, it's about getting back out and doing what they love. So we wish them the best of luck. And maybe that can kickstart a positive weekend for Limerick with obviously Sunday's game, that crucial Minor A Camogie final against Antrim at 2:30 in UPMC Nolan Park. But I don't think we're missing anything, Matt. Have we covered it all there?
I think we have, Jack.
Yeah, look, it wasn't the best week, but these things happen, and hopefully in a few weeks we can talk about the response from Limerick and a positive one. And we obviously a huge thank you to Paul Neenan for joining to talk about Camogie, and to John Ryan for talking about the minor footballers. They're out in action next Thursday night in the Phase One Final. We'll obviously have Tailteann Cup to talk about next week as Limerick kick off their campaign. So hopefully an All-Ireland win to go with a Munster final preview and the start of Tailteann Cup as the hurlers slowly gear up for that huge game in Tip. So again, a huge thank you to Paul and John, to everyone listening, to you, Matt, of course, our sponsors, Noel's Menswear. Make sure if you're watching this on YouTube to turn on your notifications, subscribe, like the video, same on Facebook, like, share, Twitter, like it, follow us, and we'll continue to expand this community. But for now, that's episode 231 in the books. A huge thank you from us, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Jack.
Especially in the game, we get out with what you put into. It's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as 𝘕𝘰𝘷𝘦 sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods, and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Johnny Buckley. To do that to 𝘠𝘬𝘁 𝘕𝘰𝘦. He deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the 𝘠𝘰𝘷𝘦 today. 𝘠𝘬𝘃 𝘠𝘪𝘵 that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the 𝘠𝘰𝘦, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes 𝘠𝘰𝘷𝘦. Kerry leading the charge of the Limerick Brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it high. He's put it over.
There's no sympathy in this game for